I know we've had a challenging year. I'm still in awe at how everything came together. I've been making every effort to get us together. Regardless of the emotional connection you have with someone else, I have no idea how to manage it. My pride also got in the way. I also acted foolishly. I regret that emotions are at an all-time high and that the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta audience is currently shaking. Just when we thought we had seen it all between the most talked about couple on reality TV, Mendeecees Harris broke down and did the unthinkable. He openly apologized to his wife, Yandy Smith Harris, for the years of emotional suffering, the public scrutiny, and the way he handled their relationship throughout his worst times. For over a decade, we have seen Yandy keep this man down through thick and thin, largely thin. She helped him through a federal prison sentence, handled the ongoing family drama involving his children's mothers, and she defended his honor against all over the world. But behind closed doors, Yandy was clearly crumbling under the burden of upholding the Harris empire, and their foundation was starting to show indications of collapse. Fans have been shouting at their TV screens for years, demanding that Mendeecees give this woman the vulnerability, respect, and recognition she so rightly deserves. In season 13B, the dam, music, finally cracked. Mendeecees removed his harsh exterior, looked directly into the woman's eyes, and admitted how he had failed her. Everyone in the room and at home was taken aback by this candid, unadorned, and deeply emotional remark. It was more than just a casual "I'm sorry" all the time. But why this sudden change of viewpoint? Was it a realization of his own failings, or was it Yandy's ultimate breaking point? As we delve deeper into the unvarnished reality of this explosive apology, the hidden aspects of their tumultuous marriage, and the consequences of this song for Yandy and Mendeecees' future, get ready. We need to look at the heavy baggage that Mendeecees brought into season 13B in order to completely understand the gravity of their apologies. Relationships in the spotlight are difficult enough, but they become a ticking time bomb when mixed family politics, reality TV cameras, and federal jail are added. Yandy Smith has been praised for years as the quintessential ride-or-die woman. She became the embodiment of how to run a man's household, raise his children, maintain her own massive career as an entertainment tycoon, and keep a man in check while he is incarcerated. The problem with being a strong woman for a long time, though, is that people often forget that you still need care. When the most recent episode of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta started recording, it was clear that Yandy and Mendeecees were at odds. It was no longer about little disagreements. It had to do with a fundamental lack of understanding and respect for one another's sacrifices. Yandy was obviously exhausted. Her eyes showed it. The exhaustion of carrying the emotional weight of their entire past, the constant arguments about boundaries, the ongoing conflict with Mendeecees' past, and his purportedly cold demeanor were pushing her to the edge. This momentous meeting was sparked by a very awkward scene in which the couple sat down to talk about the ongoing story about their marriage. For a very long time, Mendeecees has operated out of defense. Whenever issues from the past were brought up, his immediate reaction was to shut down, divert, or defend his own ego. He often minimized the emotional toll that his court challenges and previous decisions had on Yandy, viewing her strength as a natural obligation of being his wife rather than a sacrifice. But during this specific occasion, Yandy would not let him veer. She put all of her cards on the table and talked about how lonely it is to be the anchor of a ship that constantly seems to be sinking. She described how the lack of emotional reciprocity, his inability to recognize her feelings, and the feeling of being taken advantage of, were all slowly destroying her love for him. This terrifying moment of vulnerability made the audience realize that even the strongest bonds of music have a breaking point. Mendeecees sat there as Yandy spoke, trying at first to maintain his usual stoic demeanor, but the reality of the situation began to dawn on him. He saw more than a grumpy husband. He was looking at a woman who was genuinely considering walking away. It hit him like a one-goods train. The barriers he had built throughout his years in the prison system, walls meant to keep him numb and protected from outside grief, were purposefully destroying the best thing in his life. The conversation shifted from a common marital disagreement to an important psychological advancement. For the first time, attendees did not interrupt. He made no effort to justify his actions or counter her claims with historical context. He just listened. As "I'm sick" played in that silence, you could see the entire nature of their relationship shifting. The ego was starting to collapse, revealing a truth that had been concealed for far too long. A moment that would change their marriage forever was set in motion by the music. As Mendeecees prepared to deliver the words Yandy had been waiting almost a decade to hear, the moment of truth came, moving into the heart of the storm. Mendeecees gazed straight at Yandy, his posture softening as he cleared his throat. The space had a somber air, full of, that represented years of untold agony and sadness. A crucial turning moment in the history of love and hip-hop occurred when he finally spoke, and the words that came out were utterly unexpected. Mendeecees began by acknowledging that he was emotionally unavailable. He confessed that the years he spent behind bars, together with his musical education, had conditioned him to bury his feelings. He stated that he had created a survival strategy that left him chill, aloof, and unduly analytical. He looked at Yandy and said, "I apologize for the way I handled you. I treated you like a soldier instead of like my wife." This sentence alone rocked the fandom because it was so accurate. He said that he had thought she would just march through the mud, take the blows from, and continue without ever stopping to take care of her wounds. He went on to talk about the specific times he had ignored her feelings during their public arguments. Mendeecees freely admitted that his pride had often impaired his discernment. When Yandy showed signs of hurt or humiliation over family strife or public rumors, he used to tell her to either ignore it or be tough. In this apology, he took full responsibility for that negligence. He admitted that by telling her to be strong, he was denying her of her right to be human, vulnerable, and safe. He acknowledged that rather than asking her to stand in the storm by herself, it was his responsibility as her husband to shield her from the rain. The apology became more emotionally charged as Mendeecees began to cry. Seeing a man who frequently takes great pride in his, streetwise, gruff attitude cry was incredibly touching. While he was incarcerated, Yandy's life was developing, but she chose to freeze her own joy to protect his. He was deeply sorry for the years Yandy had been waiting for him. He admitted that he had undervalued her tremendous commitment, believing it to be an endless resource that didn't require cultivation. Tears were streaming down Yandy's face as she sat across from him, obviously overcome by the sudden rush of responsibility. For years, she had been trying to persuade him of the damage his emotional absence was causing. Hearing him explain her pain so accurately was both consoling and heartbreaking. Mendeecees did more than just generalize his mistakes. He specifically apologized for his lack of warmth, his lack of confidence, and the way he allowed music, an outside influence, to disturb her peace. On reality TV, this was not a pre-arranged apology intended to mend a reputation. It was a man, realizing that his toxic traits would soon cost him his family. He begged for her forgiveness and the opportunity to learn how to love her properly as he concluded this section of his apology. Even though he knew it would take time to unlearn decades worth of emotional defense mechanisms, he vowed he was totally dedicated to changing for her. The unadulterated honesty of the moment left no room for doubt. Mendeecees was genuinely upset by the way he had treated the woman who had given him everything. After that historic and incredibly exhausting apology, everyone's first thought was, where do Yandy and Mendeecees go from here? An apology, no matter how beautiful or sincere, is only words. What matters is the consistent action that follows. As the rest of season 13 went on, we witnessed the complicated consequences from this breakthrough, showing that repairing a broken marriage is a challenging process consisting of both accomplishments and failures. The apology was a big relief for Yandy, but it also unleashed a torrent of repressed sentiments. After being strong for so long, it might be unnerving to suddenly let your guard down. She added that while she was appreciative of his remarks, she was also terrified. Anyone who too has ever seen a spouse, promised transformation will be able to identify with her fear that once the intensity of the moment faded, Mendeecees may return to his defensive ways. To his credit, Mendeecees appears to realize that his mission was just getting started. Yandy had to carefully balance assuming responsibility for him with being cautious enough to maintain her own composure. In the ensuing episodes, we noticed a noticeable shift in his behavior. He began consciously attempting to be more expressive, more present, and more aware of Yandy's emotional well-being. Rather than leaving Yandy deal the aftermath on her own, he began intervening promptly to resolve family disputes. This was a big step since it revealed his desire to substitute his passivity for active leadership in their partnership. True metamorphosis, however, is seldom linear. As they attempted to incorporate these new dynamics into their regular lives, the couple continued to experience challenges. There were times when Mendeecees found it difficult to communicate his emotions without becoming defensive, since old habits die long. However, instead of shutting down, they were now willing to pause, reset, and talk through the discomfort. They started going to therapy sessions so that a professional could assist them in rebuilding a healthier foundation based on respect for one another and emotional safety, as well as in dismantling the lingering pain from their past. Fans and the cast of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta had an incredible response. Many complimented Mendeecees for his improvement, pointing out that it takes a true man to accept his shortcomings, swallow his pride, and publicly apologize. Others remained to be doubtful, asking Yandy to be vigilant and make sure that his words and acts continue to coincide. But there was no denying the shift in their home, regardless of what other people thought of. They were actively attempting to develop together rather than merely surviving together as. Yandy and Mendeecees Harris's journey in Season 13B provides as a potent illustration of the intricacies of Black love, marriage, and personal development. They demonstrated to the world that if both partners are prepared to humble themselves and battle for the love they have created, they can weather the worst storms. Mendeecees' apology was more than just a dramatic moment on reality TV. It was a passionate declaration of love and a commitment to personal growth, as well as the Harris family's first major step toward a better, brighter future. I would like to hear from you all right away, but as spectators, we can only hope that this new chapter will provide them the safety, peace, and eternal delight that they have worked so hard to achieve. What did you think of Mendeecees' sincere apology? Did he really mean it, or was it just an attempt to please the cameras? Please let us know in the comments section below if you believe their marriage will be able to withstand the challenging path that lies ahead. I read every single one of them. If you like this in-depth analysis, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another special celebrity breakdown. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. I've been doing my hardest to bring us together. My pride also came in the way. I don't know how to deal with the emotional attachment you have with someone else, regardless of what it was. I also acted irresponsibly. I hate that emotions are at an all-time high and that the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta crowd is currently shaking. Just when we thought we had seen it all between the most talked about couple on reality TV, Mendeecees Harris broke down and did the unthinkable. 3. He publicly apologized to his wife, Yandy Smith Harris, for the years of emotional suffering, the public scrutiny, and the way he handled their relationship during his darkest times. For over a decade, we have seen Yandy hold this man down through thick and thin, mostly thin. She stood up for his honor throughout the world, supported him during a federal jail sentence, and handled the never-ending family drama involving the mothers of his children. But behind closed doors, their foundation was starting to show signs of weakness, and Yandy was clearly crumbling under the weight of upholding the Harris empire. Fans have been shouting at their TV screens for years, demanding that Mendeecees give this woman the vulnerability, respect, and recognition she so richly deserves. In Season 13B, the dam finally burst. Mendeecees removed his tough exterior, looked directly into the woman's eyes, and admitted how he had failed her. This went beyond simply saying, "I'm sorry" all the time. This candid, unfiltered, and deeply emotional admission left everyone in the room and at home dumbfounded. But why this sudden change in viewpoint? Was it Yandy's final breaking point, or was it an admission of his own failings? As we delve deeply into the unvarnished reality of this explosive apology, the hidden aspects of their turbulent marriage, and the implications of this song for Yandy and Mendeecees' future, get ready. To fully understand the gravity of Mendeecees' apologies, we need to look at the heavy baggage that this couple carried into season 13B. For many years, Yandy Smith has been praised as the ultimate ride-or-die woman. Relationships in the spotlight are difficult enough, but when you combine reality TV cameras, mixed family politics, and federal prison, it becomes a ticking time bomb. The problem with being a strong woman for a long time is that people tend to forget that you still need care. She became the poster child for running a man's house, raising his children, maintaining her own massive career as an entertainment mogul, and holding a man down while he serves time. When the most recent episode of Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta started recording, the tension between Yandy and Mendeecees became apparent. It was no longer about minor arguments. Yandy was obviously exhausted. It was about a fundamental communication gap and a lack of respect for each other's sacrifices. The tiredness of carrying the emotional weight of their entire past, the constant arguments about boundaries, the ongoing conflict with Mendeecees' past, and his purportedly cold demeanor were all driving her to the verge. This momentous meeting was sparked by a very awkward incident in which the couple sat down to talk about the ongoing story about their marriage. Mendeecees has been acting defensively for a very long time. Whenever issues from the past were brought up, his first reaction was to shut down, divert, or defend his own ego. He often minimized the emotional toll that his court cases and previous rulings had on Yandy, viewing her strength as a normal duty of being his wife rather than a sacrifice. Yandy put all of her cards on the table and described the loneliness of being the anchor of a ship that seemed to be sinking all the time, but she would not let him distract during this specific episode. This terrifying moment of vulnerability made the audience realize that even the strongest bonds, music, have a breaking point. She talked about how her love for him was gradually being destroyed by his incapacity to acknowledge her feelings, the lack of emotional reciprocity, and the sense of being taken for granted. Mendeecees sat there as Yandy talked, trying at first to maintain his usual stoic demeanor, but the reality of the situation began to dawn on him. He saw more than a frustrated spouse. It came on him like a cargo train that he was staring at a woman who was genuinely considering leaving. The walls he had built during his years in the prison system, walls meant to keep him numb and shielded from outside sorrow, were purposefully destroying the best thing in his life. The conversation shifted from a normal marital argument to a significant psychological development. For the first time, Mendeecees didn't interrupt. He didn't try to justify his actions or use background information to counter her claims. For all he did was listen, and while performed in that silence, you could feel the entire nature of their relationship shifting. The music set the atmosphere for a moment that would change their marriage forever, revealing a truth that had been concealed for far too long as the ego started to fall apart. The moment of truth came when Mendeecees was prepared to say what Yandy had been waiting over a decade to hear, moving into the middle of the storm. Mendeecees looked directly at Yandy, his posture loosening as he cleared his throat. When he finally spoke, it was a pivotal moment in the history of love and hip-hop, and the words that came out were completely unexpected. The room had a somber atmosphere, full with, that represented years of unimaginable agony and sadness. Mendeecees started off by acknowledging that he was emotionally unavailable and that his years in prison and his training in music had conditioned him to suppress his emotions. He acknowledged that his survival technique had left him cold, distant, and overly analytical. "I apologize for the way I handled you," he said, looking at Yandy. "I treated you like a soldier instead of like my wife." This statement alone rocked the fandom since it was bang on. He acknowledged that he had thought she would just march through the mud, take the blows from, and move on without ever stopping to tend to her wounds. He went on to describe the specific times he had ignored her feelings during their public arguments. Mendeecees freely admitted that his pride had often impaired his judgment. He used to tell Yandy to use it, ignore it, or to be tough whenever she showed hurt or humiliation over public rumors or family strife. In this apology, he took full responsibility for such negligence. He admitted that by telling her to be tough, he was denying her of her right to be human, vulnerable, and secure.